Hello everybody, and welcome to our video on graphing polynomials. Make sure that you take notes as we go and remember to answer the survey questions at the end of the video. So, to provide the sketch of a graph, we need to know several things. First, we need to know end behavior, which we've been talking about in class. We need to know the y-intercept, zeros, multiplicity. Okay, and what is multiplicity? Sometimes that's something that determines what the function does at the x-axis. That's something we'll talk about a little bit later. So just to review end behavior, it's important that you memorize this. I know it's on the foldable and everything, but it's important for you to know. So remember that a positive leading coefficient, and it's even, it's up, up. If it's positive leading coefficient and odd, it's going to be down, up. Negative leading coefficient and even, down, down, and odd, or negative leading coefficient and odd degree, it's going to be up, down. Okay, so just a quick example for review. Leading coefficient is negative 3x to the 4, so our degree is 4, so that means it's odd, or it's even, sorry. Since it's even, that means that they're both going to be in the same direction, so that eliminates, now here. So that eliminates A. That also eliminates C. Now, we need to look at our leading coefficient to see if it is positive or negative. If it is negative, so here it is negative, so that means that they are both going to be going down. So it leaves us answer choice B. Okay, now find y-intercept. Y-intercept occurs is when x equals 0. For example, f of x equals negative 7x to the 5th plus 4x to the 3rd plus 3x to the 2nd plus 5x plus 20. So set x to 0, so plug in 0 wherever you see an x, and what that should leave us with is 20. Okay, so everything else is canceled out, so these just go away, and all we're left with is the 20 at the end. Simple enough. Pretty easy. Just remember that idea about that it's x equals 0, and it should be easy every single time. So find the zeros. We talked about this a little bit in class already. Step 1, look for common factors. Example, f of x equals 3x to the 3rd plus 6x squared minus 9. Common factor is 3x, so they all have 3x in common. So now, once we factor the 3x, we are left with 3x times the quantity x squared plus 2x minus 3. Step 2 is a factor the quadratic left over, so we need to factor that x squared plus 2x minus 3. So we need two numbers that multiply give me negative 3, but add to give me 2. So those two numbers are going to be positive 3 and negative 1. And don't forget to have that 3x on the front here. Okay, this doesn't go away. Okay, so our factors, once we set them all three equal 0 and solve for x, we get x equals 0, negative 3, and 1. So let's try another just for practice. Okay, these all have x in common, so we factor our next to get x squared minus 2x minus 15. Factor the x squared minus 2x minus 15 to get x minus 5 and x plus 3. We bring down the x with it. So we're going to get our zeros to be x equals 0, 5, and negative 3. Now remember also that zeros have four names: zeros, roots, x-intercepts, and solutions. So those all mean the exact same thing when it comes to polynomials. Find the y-intercept. Y-intercept, we don't have a constant at the end, so our y-intercept is 0, because if I plug in 0 for x, it just comes out to be 0. Our end behavior, we look at our leading coefficient. So here we had x to the 3rd. X to the 3rd has an odd power, or an odd degree, sorry. So that means that they're both going to be different. And since the sign of this one is positive, since there's nothing written here, that means we're going to be going up from left to right. So that means we get down, up. Okay, now let's graph and see what this looks like. So we draw our arrows off to the side, as you can see here on the left and right hand sides of our screen. Okay, to help us remember our end behavior, we graphed our zeros at x equals 0, 5, and negative 3. And then we have our end behavior. So we're going to we add our arrows, put our x-intercepts, add the y-intercept, which we said was 0, I believe, which is already marked, and then we fill in the graph. So right now I'm not so concerned about the picture being perfect. just as long as it crosses our x-intercepts and has a kind of a curve to it. Okay, so that's kind of a rough sketch. One more example. So we get f of x equals x to the fourth minus 2x to the third minus 8x squared. Okay, we factor out x squared. We factor our quadratic leftover. So our zeros are x equals 0, x equals -2, and x equals 4. And our in behavior, because our leading coefficient is x to the fourth, positive leading coefficient, even degree means up, up. Okay, now let's look at the graph. And I'm going to pull up my calculator to show you what this looks like. Now, remember to graph anything, I go over to y equals. Okay, and I'm going to plug it in exactly how it was written on the PowerPoint. So we get x to the fourth minus 2x to the third minus 8x squared. Then we hit graph. Now as we wait, we're going to see something interesting happen at x equals 0. Now if you notice, it bounced at x equals 0 and then went up, up like we said it would. So let's look back at our zeros. So now if you notice our zeros, we have x squared. If we actually did x squared equals 0, what that means is we would have x equals 0 and x equals 0. Okay, so what that means is that if I had it twice, that means I have something that's called multiplicity. So the number of times that factor appears in a polynomial affects the graph. If the multiplicity is 1, so example like x or x plus 7, then the graph will pass through the x-axis. If the multiplicity is 2, like x squared like we had before, then the graph will bounce. If the multiplicity is 3, we get, so like x to the third, then the graph will kind of flatten and cross, or it flattens and bounces. It kind of depends on the thing. Okay, let's stop there. Okay, here are your survey questions. Make sure you answer these on your notes. Have your notes ready for class tomorrow.